We started doing content creation about 5 years ago. Has anything changed in that time? Well, my hairline sure has, and I think my taste in games has too. Let's talk about it. What's up, everybody? My name is Nick Murphy, and welcome to Metagame Minute. And this time we're going to talk about how my taste, and then hopefully your taste down in the comments below, have changed over time. We started off with Pandemic, and then Zombicide was kind of the big thing that made us move into games. So back then, we were very into like Ameritrash games. Any game with like a ton of minis, we were instantly interested in, especially if it was cooperative. Early on, we really, I'm not gonna say only sought out cooperative games, but if a game was a cooperative game, we were pretty much instantly like, yep, gonna love that, want to play that, that's gonna be great. So early on, it was all co-ops really, because we were constantly introducing new people. It's easy to do that with co-ops because you're all on the same team. And it was just an interesting concept that you could play a board game while all being on the same team. That was something we never really saw before. And then everything was kind of like big Ameritrash games. We got really into Zombicide, bought like a couple different versions of Zombicide. We had like 4 copies at one point of like the first season, the second season, the third season, and then Black Plague. We've since at this point only have Black Plague, but it was all about those big, long, mini-driven games. It was like our thing, that kind of Ameritrash game. And then as time went through, we started to kind of move more and more into liking, you know, generally Euro games, or more themed games still, but like we're not like Ameritrash where there's like, you know, troops on a map, that kind of stuff. We started moving into just normal, kind of like what we consider just normal Euro games. And then that really took over. The kind of like switch from like cool, big Ameritrashy type themes into like Euro mechanics was a big change in what we liked. And all of a sudden kind of like midway Euros, but particularly like thematic Euros, we got really into. And then from like really thematic Euro games, particularly worker placement games, we kind of started moving into like more just like truly themeless games, like something like Castles in Burgundy. You know, those kinds of games that like have a theme, but the theme doesn't matter, and the theme is just pasted on. And then we realized that we're like, you know what, I think I'm kind of more here for the mechanics than anything else, because there's a lot of these like pasted on themes that like we're totally fine with. And if this was a couple years earlier, we would never have played those games. We're like, no, I need tons and tons of theme. And now we're kind of like more mechanic heavy. And so then everything became into like midweight and then heavier weight Euros, just really loving. That's the kind of game we like. And to this day, that's still, I would say, the kind of game we prefer the most. But then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, there was just so much of our bandwidth was taken up with just like a lot of different stuff. There was just a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear, that kind of stuff. We obviously couldn't hang out with people very often, if ever, to play games. And so then it kind of turned into games that are easy to get to the table became our absolute favorite. So a game like Cascadia, which is right there, a game like Cascadia was like the ultimate game. It just won the Spiel des Jahres. I think it's relatively deserving. And that's the kind of like perfect game because it's just easy to get to the table. Games that are quick, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, something that have strategy to them and some depth to them, but aren't like, I don't have to like think super hard. I don't have to try to remember a whole bunch of different rules. It's not like a big old T game or some big heavy Euro. I'm like, those are still fun. I still absolutely love those, but those are not the games that are getting played right now because so much of my bandwidth is going to other parts of my life. And so for a while, during COVID especially, like it was all kind of like easy games, quick games, light themes, like nature-y themes, just kind of like, yeah, let's just escape into this world real quick because the normal world is kind of crazy. And then recently what's been happening is we've been getting more and more into like the bigger games. We're able to hang out with more people. Now we're having more game days. We're going to some conventions again, getting excited for those kinds of things. But now and I don't know how far I'm going to go down this road, but now kind of what's happening is I'm starting to get into more like story-driven games. We've had to play like a bunch of story-driven games recently for different sponsored things that we've done, and we've always enjoyed those kind of games, but they've just never really been our favorite. But recently I've been kind of like, man, I really like these kind of like heavy theme, heavy story games. We just played Burn Cycle, which I'm like super into right now. And I'm just like, oh man, am I starting to get into these like kind of more thematic, am I starting to kind of go back to where I was like kind of longer, bigger, thematic, story-driven games? Is that where I'm starting to head? Because that's not something that I usually would go towards. I'm like, give me a dry Euro and I'm good. And now I'm starting to think maybe get into more story-driven games, which is very weird for us. We tend to like just mechanics. If it's got a cool theme, it's a really thematically integrated game, great, but we don't really care. And so yeah, and so that's kind of like where my journey has been. It kind of started off cooperative, and then into like kind of a cooperative Amerithrash games, and then into some like medium Euros, but only like really thematic Euros like Dungeon Pets, and then moved into kind of like I don't really care about the theme, or in terms of like how much the theme is like honestly there, and just all mechanics. And then it turned very light and kind of breezy because COVID was nuts, and then now it's kind of moving back into heavier and kind of into the story realm, which is weird. And so that's kind of been my journey over the last 5 years. But down in the comments below, let me know your journey with board games. Has it been big like that? Have you kind of always liked the same things? Have you moved around a bunch? How has it ebbed and flowed? What's that roller coaster been like? Let me know down in the comments below. And until next time, I'm Nick Murphy from Metagame Minute. Like, subscribe, you know what to do. We'll see you later.